Just a quick word before this video starts. I decided to split my question and answer videos into two videos because it's too long. And they've come from all different places because I've struggled to find the time to answer so many things at once, particularly as it happened over Christmas and I've been away and all that sort of thing. So what I've done, I've made one video which is answering questions about money and finance and all that sort of stuff. And then I have another one which is all about just life stuff and other stuff. Now, I know that I have probably missed a few questions. And if I have missed your question or you thought of something else, add your question to either of the two videos that are coming up. And I will do some more question and answer sessions, because they've been really interesting, and I've answered some questions on things that I wouldn't have thought about talking about because it just didn't seem that important, and it helps give me ideas for other things to talk about. So you've got a video coming up now straight after this, and then there will be another one following in a couple of days, and then I will do more. So I'm sorry if I've missed your question. Answering comments on YouTube is really tricky because when you go into YouTube, it only shows you the stuff you haven't responded to before. So you have to go through all that, and then you have to go through the ones where you have initially responded to the question and maybe someone's asked again something else underneath another response. So it gets quite complicated because they're on all different videos all over the place, and I do get a little bit behind on comments, so I apologize if I've missed your comment. There's a lot of comments coming in and I'm busy as well as everybody else is. So do add your question again under one of these videos if you still have something that you need answered or you want answered, or you thought of something by watching this, or something else has come up since, and I will keep going with it because it's interesting, I think. So I hope you enjoy this. Hope it's interesting. Hope it answers some of your questions. And yeah, so enjoy these next few videos. I'm driving home after the new year, so I have plenty of time to answer questions. So I thought I would do a few on the way back, just to break the back of it. I've got a lot of questions to get through, and I've just been really short of time. I've just not had the space to record privately while I've been away, and I was hoping to crack on with a bit more of this. So I'm compiling questions from all sorts of locations wherever I can grab the time to flooding, look at that. Yeah, so let's crack on with a few questions. So my first one says that I mentioned I had savings. Were you always frugal? What was your budget like when you were working in offices? Well, I had no budget when I was working in offices. I didn't discover my frugal nature until I stopped working in offices, and I decided at 35 to go to university for 3 years to retrain for what I do now essentially in business, which is clothing design and manufacture. And the reason I ended up in the town where I went to university is because I got divorced. And the reason I could afford to go to university was because I got divorced. I had been pretty much working hand to mouth in terms of income before then. I've never been very good at picking partners. I always ended up with people who either didn't work or didn't work full time or were just irresponsible with money. So I was always managing the finances, but not in a way that meant I could accrue any savings, because very often I was paying for two people in at least a certain degree. And when I got divorced, I got a small divorce settlement, because I had been paying for his mortgage on his house for most of the time that we had been together and I had been living with him. So I got that money back basically, and that enabled me to have some money in savings, because it was enough that I could help it to put me through university. I paid for my first year of tuition, and then heard Martin Lewis talking about never pay for your university tuition, it's not worth it. So I paid for my first full year, and then the second 2 years I let the system pay. I let the student loans, I got student loans. And back when I went, you also got the maintenance grant, which you didn't have to pay back. So I was getting some money from that, and I cannot remember what that was. The student loans were covered, so I just had to find very basic bills. I lived in the equivalent of student accommodation. The rent was very cheap. I was living with a partner at the time, so it was split down the middle. And then it was just a case of just managing bills. And I didn't work when I was at university. I decided that having finally escaped offices after 17 years, I wanted to enjoy that 3 years of doing the thing that I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I treated the university education like a full-time job. The course that I was on, you had a desk where 5 days a week you could go and sit and work at that desk if you wanted, and I treated it like a 9 to 5, and I thoroughly enjoyed it for the most part. So I got through university with no debt, and I still had some of the savings left when I came out, the money that I got from the divorce. I hadn't spent it irresponsibly. I hung on to as much of it as I could, so that it was some still there. So there was a bit there after I left, and then I set up my business. I got funding to do a year attachment to the university I'd been at, which helped start up businesses. So I got a year where I was getting a little bit of funding to help me set up the business, and they were giving you lots and lots of workshops on things on how to run your business. So they would teach you how to do marketing and how to manage your finances, how to do self-assessment, all that sort of thing. So I had that first year out doing that, but also I was still taking on the odd part-time job, getting a bit of variety, building up my portfolio, doing work within the industry that I wanted to work in. So it was a gradual process, and that enabled me to then continue to not spend what was left of my savings, and that's how things kind of carried on. And then I cannot remember when it was. I'm pretty sure it was in 2021 that a relative died, and we all inherited. And I inherited money that was almost equivalent to the divorce settlement I'd had. So I'd spent some of the divorce money surviving, helping to build up the business, and then I had this small inheritance, and I did the same thing with that. I put it into the bank, I made it work, I used it as savings. I tried to spend as little of it as possible, and by then I was single. Was I single by then? Yeah, I was well and truly single by then. 2021. Yes, it was. I'm thoroughly post-COVID. The time has gone so fast, and so all of that went into the bank. And I've had a few tough years since COVID, as a lot of people had. So I have had to use the savings to help keep a roof over my head, pay the bills, whilst things settle down and whatever. So now I'm in a situation where I'm now earning more money than I spend. Not an enormous amount, but it means I can put some of the money back into the savings. I am trying to put back all the money that was spent from the divorce and the inheritance on surviving, I'd like to get back up to that level so that I can say that I've still got those savings. But of course, some of it's being reinvested, some of it I've put into my private pension. I've also got a stocks and shares ISA, which is also going towards my retirement. And then what I do, when I see savings accounts that look like they're worth having, I will take a chunk of those savings and whack it into those savings accounts. But I always keep enough aside in easy access savings for an emergency fund in case something should happen. I'm trying to build up a car fund because at some point I'm going to have to buy a new car. Oh, you're joking. Mate, where am I going to go now? The motorway's shut. Oh, knickers. Well, that's no good, is it? Oh. Highway maintenance. Now I can't get onto the motorway. Right, okay, so let's go this way. Yes, so I lost my train of thought there just for a moment seeing that. So yeah, so when I'm putting money into savings in terms, and the same with the pension and the stocks and shares ISA, I am drip feeding money from the savings that I've hung on to into those accounts, so it doesn't affect my basic standard of living I have. And because I'm now earning more than I spend every year, or at least I did in 2024, that means that I am also able to add to those emergency pots, to the car fund. It basically means that, you know, we're not running out of money, so to speak. So I tried to be really careful and not spend any of the savings I have, but none of my savings up to that point had come from me living a frugal life. I was living pretty much a hand-to-mouth existence, and until I had those two chunks of money coming to me, I didn't really have any savings. I had a couple of thousand in the bank as emergencies, but I was never properly set up to manage any emergency situations. So I wasn't frugal while I was living in offices because I couldn't be. I never earned enough to be able to put money aside. The jobs weren't that well paid. I didn't have workplace pensions, and I wasn't in any of those jobs for long enough to make that a thing. So yeah, it was tricky. So that's really I think that answers that question. I was not frugal while I worked in offices because I couldn't afford to be. I didn't have those kinds of jobs, but I learned a lot of valuable lessons along the way. It's cold today, so excuse the layers. We had snow again. Okay, so time for another question. So somebody asked how I had been coping since my universal credit claim ended. So when I'm looking at my income, I don't look at it on a month-to-month basis because my money doesn't come in once a month. I'll get a bit on that day. There'll be a £5 there. There'll be 30 quid there. There'll be, 50 quid there. There'll be a £5 there. It comes in from all different places and at all different times. So I can't really plan for, here's payday, so I'm going to do this. So what tends to happen is I take an overall approach to income. I have my spreadsheet set up so that I can see what's coming in over the course of the year. And provided I am earning more over the course of a year than I spend, then I think I've done well. In terms of if I have a short month, in terms of I haven't earned as much, or maybe something hasn't come through that should have done, I do have savings, and some of them are tied up, locked away, earning interest, and in retirement funds and things. But I always keep a certain amount of money handy in a high interest, easy access account, just in case. And so what happens is I'll get paid from something, and it might come in direct to my bank account. It might be cash I've had to put in the bank. It might be from PayPal. Well, I've requested a withdrawal from PayPal. And it all goes in to the bank account, and then I pick all the money up and I drop it into my Easy Access savings account, and from there I divvy it up into the accounts where bills need paying. My main bill account is with Lloyds, so I make sure that over the course of the month there is enough money in the bank at the right time so that when those direct debits are paid, nothing bounces. So theoretically, I am always dipping into savings to pay for things. But over the course of a year, I've earned more than I've spent. So I don't look at it as a month-to-month thing. It's if I need money, I'll just take it out the savings and then I'll put it back in when I get paid. At the end of the day, it all balances out, but it doesn't matter on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis. And for me, that's the easiest way to work because I have no guarantee when I'm going to be paid for pretty much anything. I have two of my cleaning jobs pay on time. 2 of them don't. The 2 businesses never pay on time because it has to go through as an invoice. One of them is pretty good. It always processes the invoices as soon as I get them, and it takes a couple of days for it to come through. The other one is a bit slapdash. I'm not through the agency with that one, and I do find myself regularly chasing them. But with everything else, it's down to me when I make the income. So if I'm doing surveys or I'm selling stuff on my website, that's down to me when that money comes in based on how much work I've done. So so in terms of income for last year, my universal credit ended in the August, and I knew that was going to end, and I already knew where my income was coming through for the rest of the year, and I knew that I was going to come in having earned more than I spent, so that's fine. What goes on this year is different. I've obviously had to knock that off of my income stream list. And at the moment, my income is showing as less than I will spend, even on a very frugal year. That's no surprise. That always happens at the start of a year because you can't predict where the money's going to come from. I don't know whether clean jobs will go, whether I'll have to find new ones, whether my survey income will be better. I don't know if YouTube will be better or worse. I don't know if I'm going to make any money at my business. So I look at it from an overall perspective. So I won't worry about the end of year figure until the end of year. And every time I get some money in, every time some money goes out, I look at the spreadsheet and I can see the difference between, as it looks at the moment, currently going out with currently coming in. And that will change as the year goes on. But because I hang on to those easy access savings, it means that everybody always gets paid where I owe them money. And it means that I don't go without the essentials. And that's basically how I run things. So it didn't affect me last year when the claim stopped. And I will just have to work my way around it this year, but I'm sure it'll all be fine. It usually works out in the end. Somebody asked what percentage of my income each month goes into savings. Similar to the last question, it's a money in versus a money out over the course of 12 months. So whereas, as I pointed out on my financial audit for the end of 2024, I'll put a link to that at the end if you haven't seen it, and on my calculations, I put how much I had made, I put how much I had spent over the course of the year, and then there was the difference. And the difference is basically savings. So money in, everything out that got paid for, which is everything, I have no debts, anything that's left goes into savings. So it's not a monthly percentage, as I mentioned before. I don't have a regular monthly income. It comes in here, there and everywhere on Most days of the week there will be something coming in. If it's 2-3 quid, it might be a marketing survey that I did last month, and that money's been paid in. Money is going in and out all the time in incremental amounts. So it's hard to say how much I save or what percentage I save over the course of a month. Those are the numbers there which show what I earned in 24, what I spent in 24, and that difference is basically what ends up in the savings account. That's how I work it out. Someone asked what money goals I have set for 2025. I haven't really set any. The goal is to earn more than I spend, whatever that becomes. I think in a dream world, I would be able to give up the cleaning work. That isn't going to happen. I'm going to make even more money this year from the cleaning work, in part because of the minimum wage rise, which the problem is that makes me more dependent on it. So I think it's going to be about £5,500 that I will make from the cleaning work this year, which means if I want to stop it, I've got to find £5,500 a year from something else, which needs to be as flexible as that. And the only way I can really do that is to increase the amounts of money that I'm earning at my other things. So that's doing the surveys, that's making the money from my business, that's from the YouTube. I don't think that's possible. So really my only goal at the moment, and things change throughout the course of the year, I'll be inspired by something, or something might come along which inspires me to change the way I do things or whatever. But really my only goal, as always, is to earn more than I spend and to stay out of debt. That's always the goal.